Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Lili Nishmasimi Mirasi Rusbas Mordechai. Today's shir is sponsored again by Fishel for Refuah shelayma for Breinna bas Yenta Devorah, the Matriarch of our family. Only one sponsor today. So today they changed the clocks in Eretz Yisrael, so keep note that the shir, if you want to watch it live in New York, let's say, it's at 12:15 instead of 1:15 in the morning. And in Chicago, it's 11:15, etc. After today's shir, which is on Daf Hey, we're going to pause, take a break for a couple of minutes, short minutes, and then start up again on Daf Ches. Tomorrow, I have no idea how, but with a big nace, we'll try to do Daf Vav and Daf Zayin. But what's very, very interesting, as we saw this tremendous Hashgacha pratis of finishing Masechtas Pesachim the week of, only 3 days before the Tainis B'chayros and Erev Pesach, Daf Ches is all about Leil HaSeder. I was a little annoyed. Like, wait, it's in Eretz Yisrael, it's a day after the Seder. But being that I have to give the shir before Pesach, so we could be Yenta. It does work. So those who will hear the shir today, they'll have a little bit more insight on the Dalet Kaisis. It's a whole Amud. The whole entire Amud Beis is all about Leil HaSeder. In addition, Vav talks about tomorrow, which not really tomorrow, it's Shabbos, the Korban Pesach. It's very interesting. A couple of emails. This is Binyamin Kessler with his son Yaakov. Now, if you recall, I have a picture, if I could find it. I had it here somewhere. Basically, Binyamin back in the day took around Yoel Bergman in an ambulance in Kew Gardens. I don't know, I had it here. Okay, we'll have to find it a different time. What I'm trying to say is, get the picture, you see who the person is, you get to know who he is. This is Binyamin. Binyamin is learning with his son, the Daf Yomi. If you look closely, you'll even see some merch on his computer right over here, a mask or something. Found out who the guy that sent me these magnifying glasses was David Address, Ishkoyach, but he writes to me a different email, which came in 2 days ago. He says, B'li ayin hara, I got 2 more recruits. So I just want to say, it's Shamayim V'aretz. You can give me any gift in the world. Give me a golden bowl. So 1 recruit is worth more than that golden bowl. So this matana, 2 recruits, is far, far better than your second matana. But yishkoyach for both of them. Ephraim Levy writes here, Mazel Tov on your latest siyum on Masechtas Pesachim and for all your Torah and your personal success. I started occasionally listening to your shir online sometime in 2020. I think it started with Motzei Shabbos dafbrama Torah anytime when traveling home after being away for Shabbos. In 5781, 2021, you became a more consistent part of my Daf Yomi review after making a laning by myself with the Rosh Hashiva Reb Art Scroll. I'm writing now because I particularly like your insight into Tosfos Laman Tiskar Pesachim Daf Kuf Yud Zayin Amud Beis, connecting Yetzias Mitzrayim, the 39 Melachos and Shabbos. I'm saving the machshava for Seder night to share with family, and I've already shared it repeatedly in person and used it as part of my weekly short Vart 2 to 5 minute YouTube videos on the Parsha Devarman 2, Dvarman 2 channel, linked below with attribution. So, first of all, Chilchal Araisa, taking short Divrei Torah, anything to increase Torah in the world. Start out small, you grow bigger and bigger, Be'ez Hashem. May you go, he gives me a bracha, may you go Mechayil al Chayil, so do you. Thank you, and Chakosha v'Sameach, Ephraim Levi, way to go, Yeshukayach. So, he's referring to that Taisus. I'll say it real quickly because someone else wrote a question on it. So Taisus real quickly says that the reason why we mention Mitzrayim in Kiddush on Shabbos is because in Mitzrayim, they did avodas parach. They worked us parach, and parach in Ad Bash is vagal. Vav Gimel Lamed, which equals 39. They worked us 39 melachas. They made us 5 melachas. And that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, take a break. I'm giving you Shabbos. That was the first mitzvah, as soon as they came out of Mitzrayim. So somebody asked the question, but isn't the 39 melachas, and they wrote it in just recently, isn't the 39 melachas has to do with the Mishkan? I don't think it's a contradiction. I think the Mishkan is a map. We don't know exactly, but at any rate, so the question is, we know that the 39 melachas are connected to the Mishkan, the melachas of the Mishkan. Whatever they did in the Mishkan, that's also in Shabbos. But it could be that the Mishkan is just, we don't know what they did in Mitzrayim. We have no idea what the 39 melachas are. So you look at the Mishkan and you see, these are the 39 melachas that they did. It corresponds to what they did in Mitzrayim. Could be one is connected to the other. It's not a stira. Okay. Also, I just want to point out real quickly that I said once, and this kind of went viral. You know, it's the stuff that you don't really want to go viral went viral. But I was saying that the Gemara talks about giving walnut and egois, klois vegoizim to your children to keep them awake at the Seder. And I said, where did we go wrong? You know, you have to get your kid an electric skateboard, an electric bike. So that nobody should be choshed me. That I stam say things. I want to show you. I have it here with me. This is a Meepo electric skateboard. It only goes 28 miles an hour. All right, so the mistake is I got it before Pesach, but whatever, we'll still entice him. But he's a great kid. What is that? That's today's day and age egos. Now, I was kidding when I said it, but it suddenly ended up in my house. Yeah, that's because he never misses Shachris, even on vacation. He's a great kid. And my wife decided he deserves a gift for that, not for Pesach. So, Yishkoyach to Elaz Menachem, he's a great kid. So, here we are on the bottom of Daf Amud Beis. By the way, because we're starting early, that means, once again, we're going to have a problem with the lights. They might go off towards the end of this year. Let me just see. Are we on here? Shmuel Bernhout made a shidduch. That's what you're telling me? Yeah. Shmuel Bernhout. Mazel tov Shmuel, I don't see him. Where is he? Is he on? All right. Eli, is it better? The connection? Okay. Givaldik. Let's start learning Torah. We only have 2 daf to do. Says the Gemara, Reb Chia Omar, Reb Yirmiyah Boy. Chia says, Reb Yirmiyah asked the question. So we're talking yesterday about if brothers are partners. So sometimes if they're partners, they don't have to bring Meiser Behema. Every 10th animal, you take all the animals, you put them in a fenced area, and you let them out one by one. The 10th one becomes Meiser, and you give it to the Kohen. So the Meiser, if sometimes you have to give Meiser, then you don't give a kalbain. You don't add that small coin to your machzah shekel, and sometimes the reverse. If you give the kalbain, then you don't give Meiser. So says the Gemara, V'lamaleis nan amrin pa'amim shem chayavim bezeu pa'amim shem p'turim bezeu mizeh. I have 2 cases that you could say sometimes they're completely potter from Meiser Behema and the Kalba, and sometimes you're completely chayav. So a total of 4 cases. Sometimes you're chayav in a Kalba and potter from Meiser, sometimes you're chayav in Meiser, potter from Kalba, sometimes you're chayav in both, sometimes you're potter in both. Why don't you say 2 more cases? What are the cases? Hey Chavido, now you skip 3 lines, courtesy of the Gra, even if not. Cholku an chosim v'loy cholku ha-behema chayavim bezeh. if they divide all the belongings and then they came back as partners, but they didn't split up any of the animals. So what happens to the animals? They're not partners in the animals. The only time you putter from Meiser Behema is if you're a partner, but they didn't split up the animals. It's still in Tfusas Habayis. It's still the way the father gave it to them. So they're still Chayiv in Meiser Behema. So you're Chayiv in Meiser Behema. And if they divided up all the Nechasim and they became partners again in everything else besides the animals, so they're Chayiv in the Kalbay. So that's a case that you're Chayiv in both. A little bit of cheating because they didn't split it up. They didn't split everything up. They split up some of the stuff. I have another idea. What if they divvied up all the animals and then they became partners again? So now, if they become partners in the animals, they don't have to give meiser in them. Turim mizeh mizeh, but they didn't divide up all the belongings, only the animals. So now all the belongings is to sabayis. So we view it as if the father is paying for them, like we said yesterday. The machzah shekel is coming from somebody else, and when somebody else pays for me, and I don't have to pay him back, it's matana. I don't add a kalbay. Omar Rabbi Mana. Okay, just as a side note, he says, what happens if the father was a rancher and he owns 2.5 million animals and he has a tiny little home? So most of his belongings are in the animals. So you have to view all the nechasim as animals. They take precedence. So we don't care about, he has a few stocks and a little cash. That's nothing. Because most of his possessions are animals. He's a rancher. So Mela, I view it as animals. It wasn't roiv. Hein, ikir, nechasim, and then we base it on whatever. If there's a partnership in the animals, the potter from mice. Not. Rabbi Omar, Reb Shami boy. Reb Shami asked the question. Just because, what's the connection? What's the correlation between Meiser Behema and the Kalboim? Just because they are considered one when it comes to Meiser Behema, a Poitrim and a Kalboim, what's the connection? Omerlei, Lo Shani Shu Noisen Sela Achas Shleima. So we're talking about when they give one full Sela. There's no change here. But the point is that it's coming from Tfusas Habayis. It's coming from the father. The father is dead, but the father is paying. It's coming out of his account. They're using his credit card. They're swiping his card to pay for the machzah shekel. And if you use somebody else's money, using a beheter, it's theirs. At the end of the day, it's going to be theirs. But right now, they didn't divide it yet. So who's paying for the father? So in Mela, they're not going to pay back the father. He's giving them a gift. If somebody gifts you a machzah shekel, you don't add the small amount of a cowboy. Says the Gemara, if so, me'ato afilu cholko v'chazer v'nishtatvu. So, what happens if they went and they divvied everything up, and they became partners again? You have to skip those words in between. They should be parted from the kalbain. It's as if nothing changed. They're partners just like Tfusas Habayis. Tfusas Habayis, everything is in one big pile. So now it's one big pile again. At the end of the day, they shouldn't have to pay the kalbain. But it says that they are chayiv in a kalbain. Says the Gemara, "V'ba b'shem Abu Bar Rav Huna, hi shnei yachim sheyorshus aviyim, hi shnei gisim sheyorshus chamei." Says the Gemara, what are you talking about? You agree to me that if two brother-in-laws, they have a wealthy shver, okay? They inherited the shver. But how do they inherit the shver? Through their wives. The wives are nifter, now they have all this money. And then they get back together again. They're partners. Everybody understands that they're two strangers that came together again. So too says the Gemara the same exact thing. So two brothers who divide up everything equally, and then they come back together as partners, the two strangers that came back as partners. Just because once upon a time was in one pile, It doesn't mean that because today they put it back in one pile, it's one pile. There was a time and place where it was two separate piles. Later on, they became partners. What's the difference between two brother-in-laws and two brothers? So obviously, they're a chayiv and a kalban. Next sugya. Le'echon or le'echon, interesting lashon, with the aleph. Le'echon hoyu hakodesh neiflim. I'm just thinking to myself, seriously, I didn't think of it. If you ever heard a Yerushalmi say kaddish, let's say, or they daven, they say, we say, hokel hakod, they'll say, okel, they have like an aleph almost. And I'm seeing it here. Instead of saying heichon, they say eichon. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. If you ever daven in a Yerushalmi shtibel, you know what I'm talking about. They have this like, they don't pronounce a hey so well. Le'echon hayu hakodesh neiflim. Now what happens to these tiny coins? Think about it. Millions of Jews bring a tiny coin. It adds up to a ton of money. What do they do with this money? Now if you recall from yesterday, what does Reb Meir hold? Meir holds that a kalboin is a deraisa. Just like a machzah shekel is deraisa, that small amount is also deraisa. So what do you mean, what do you do with it? Whatever you do with the machzah shekel, that's what you do with the kalboin. It's one pasuk. It goes to buy animals. It goes to Keitz HaMizbeach, the dessert, so to speak, when the Mizbeach has a slow time, you throw on some korbanos that you buy with these kalbainas coins. This is a gold sheet that they used to have, a little layer of gold that they had on the floor and the different places. You have to give it to the money changers. They need to make a parnasa. According to the Tiklun Chatin, the money changers have to travel, right? They were in the Medina, then they have to go to Beis Hamikdash. They're traveling. For this cause, you have to pay the travel expenses. And with that, we finished the very first parak of Shekalim, the very first parak of Yerushalmi that we learned. Hadron Aloch, parak, Be'echad Ba'adar. Imagine if it was, somebody said it was Rav Moshe Feinstein that instituted that we're doing 22 daf instead of 13 or 10. But imagine if it was 10 daf. So we would finish the first parak after 2 days. Okay, says the Mishnah, the Fishel Yerushalmi Mishnah, sponsored by Fishel, from Official Catering, the Fishel Mishnah. Halacha Aleph. Mishnah. Mitzarfin Shekalim l'darkoinais. You have Bet Shemesh, a couple 100,000 Jews have to bring machzas shekel. And they bring a lot of shekalim, a lot of half a shekel. So what do you do with them? It's a lot of weight. What are the guys going to carry a sack of 200,000 machzas shekel? I mean, it's a crazy amount of weight. Says the Mishnah, you could exchange it for gold. So it'll be at least maybe a quarter of the weight. Mipnei masi aderech, because it's heavy. Keshem shayu shofars b'migdash, kachayu shofars b'medina. There were boxes called shofars, pushkas. You throw the money in there. They had this also in the rest of Eretz Yisrael, but not in Yerushalayim. If you lived in Yerushalayim, go to the Beis Hamikdash, deposit it over there. But if you live in Bet Shemesh, there was a shofar over there as well. You could just put your money in the shofar, and somebody would bring it to the Beis Hamikdash for you. What happens if you donated the money, but it didn't get to the Beis Hamikdash yet? And before it got there, on the way, it was stolen, it got lost. If in the Beis Hamikdash they already took from the shekalim, nishbarim like izbarim. We'll see this idea that all of Klal Yisrael is part of the machzah shekel and part of the korbanos. But it's not necessarily true that they took a little bit of everybody's shekel. There's a lot of shekel and there's a lot of leftover shekel. Yet, even if you didn't take my shekel, I am part of it. That's a given. Not only that, even if my shekel is still in Bet Shemesh, I'm part of it. So, once they were Teirim, once they took the shekel from the lishka, from that room that all the machzah shekel were in, They took a bunch of the thing, we'll see, 3 boxes full, and they went and bought karbanos. So even though my shekel is still stuck in the pushka and bechamesh, I was yotzei, and the shliach that's bringing the money, the delivery service, he has to make a shvuah to the Beis Hamikdash that he didn't steal it. Vimlav, but if they didn't do the truma yet, they didn't take the money. We're still talking about before the beginning of Nisan, let's say. Nishbaim livnei ha'ir. So the delivery guy, he has to make a shvuah to the city, to the Bet Shemesh. Ubnei ha'ir sheiklin tachtein. And then Bet Shemesh has to go and redo and say, Rabbi Isai, we're missing 1,000 half a shekels. Everybody cough up a little bit more. Sorry, there was a robbery. You have to cough it up. What happens? What if they found the loss? Elu ve'elu shkalim, they're both shekel. But you can't use it for next year. It's the shekel, and whatever is left over, we'll see what you do with the shiyare halishka. Says Shmuley, I see you now, so mazel tov in person. How you doing? Mark Struhl, Shalom Aleichem. Baruch Rosen, I don't know what your last name is. Rosen Ben, it's a long one. But Shalom Aleichem Baruch. Vayasu Oison Margolis. Ask the Gemara, I have a much better idea. You see, my son just bought a diamond. This small, close to $10,000, right? This small, it weighs nothing. You can put it in, nobody. So you can take all your machzah shekel, throw it into, I made a cheshme before, based on what the Gemara, maybe I made the wrong cheshme, but it came out that it was 14 gallons. That's what the Gemara says. 14 gallons of machzah shekel. Doesn't seem like that much. You're talking about $1.5 million. So $1.5 million would not even fill up this cup of, if it was full of diamonds, expensive diamonds, margolias, pearls, but whatever it is. Why can't you just transfer all the value into a very small thing? Why do you have to transfer into gold? Gold seems like it's a heavy mineral. Says Gemara, Shema Tozel Margolis, V'nimsa Hegdish Mafsid. We don't know. The market sways. You buy it high, and then by the time you get to Beis Hamikdash, it's going to be low. Gold is not that big of a problem. It's more of a solid market. Kahid Tanin Tamon. As we learned, I'm not pulling out the glasses, so maybe this will help. Oh, a little better. You guys don't see it. Okay, good. You could transfer value from a bchar, from meiser, everything you could transfer into different things. You can make it into whatever you want. Chutz mishkalim, besides the machzah shekel. What you can't transfer into some sort of kli. So whatever the reason is with a kli, I can't transfer my the shekel into a kli. So therefore, I can't transfer into margolis, into gems. For whatever reason, I can't transfer the value into a vessel. I can't transfer it into a margolis. Says the Gemara, Masniso betiklin chadatin. So now we know why the Vilna Gaon's Talmud is called tiklin chadatin. I said yesterday that that's how most of the Sfarim are going based on the tiklin chadatin. I just found out today that the Dirshu tests is only testing on the tiklin chadatin, and maybe Reb Chaim Kanievsky's Pirush. But it comes from the idea of new shkalim. There's new and there's old. Tiklin chadatin, our Mishnah is talking about the new shekel, avo betiklin atikin, loy beda. I don't know if you remember, there used to be an old shekel, and one day the government decided, new shekel chadash. Everything you had became completely devalued, terrible stuff. But anyway, tiklin atikin, they didn't do it once, many times, but I remember one time when I was a kid. Tiklin atikin, loy beda. In other words, if you're already after Sukkot, and you forgot, you woke up that you didn't do the machzah shekel, loy beda. It doesn't, You have to bring your machzah shekel to the Beis Hamikdash. It's not going to help you to deposit in the pushka outside of Yerushalayim in Bet Shemesh, let's say. B'tani Kain, and it says mefurish in the Brisa. Atikim b'Hamikdash, you want to bring the old stuff, what you owe, that's in the Beis Hamikdash only. Ve'en atikim b'Medina, and that doesn't work everywhere else in Eretz Yisrael. Says the Gemara, obviously, masnisa b'shem yechinam. Who's this delivery guy? A nice guy decided to do a favor to the guys in Bet Shemesh and bring it from Bet Shemesh to Yerushalayim. He's doing it for free. So that's 101 in third grade when you start Gemara, the whole sugya of Shem Yechinam, Shem Yisachar. Shem Yechinam is patur from Gneva and Aveda. If it's stolen from somebody that watches it for free, he's patur. But Shem Yisachar is chayiv in Gneva v'Aveda, and therefore our Mishnah is talking about a Shem Yechinam. Oh, if you're talking about 101, so there are cases in a Shem Yisachar that he's completely patur like a Shem Yechinam. Nignevu belistim mizuyim, if he got held up at gunpoint, then he's a complete einus. Avdu kemi shetavas sivinas bayam. If it was a situation that his ship sunk, you have something similar, then the Shem Yisachar is patur as well. V'omar Rabbi Yusti b'Rabbi Simon. Ask him Omar Tormin ala Govoy v'ala Osad li Govos. So this goes according to the Manda Omar that when I take the money from the Beis Hamikdash, it includes everybody, even those that didn't even give yet. I have everybody in mind. Everybody in Klal Yisrael is part of the Korban. We're going to see a beautiful thing soon. Beram kemanda Omar ein tormim lo yalagavi. But if you go according to the Manda Omar that says you cannot separate and take money on which wasn't collected, v'ala asli gavis lo beda. So we're getting used to these shyness. Lo beda. This halacha doesn't apply here. Okay, so our Mishnah goes according to Manda Omar that says we could have in mind people that didn't even donate yet. Everybody, as long as they're going to donate, we'll do it, have them in mind. Right? Because it doesn't make a difference. You have a pile of 1,000,000, half a shekel, and I'm only taking 10,000 of them. How does that include all of Klal Yisrael? So obviously I have to have in mind that this 10,000 includes everybody. Okay, so it includes the guys that live far away and forgot to give, whatever, includes everybody. So there's a problem. There's a concept called Ein Nishbaim Al Hekdeshos. You don't make a shvuah to the Beis Hamikdash. So what's going on here? Who are they making a shvuah to? It goes according to Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon Omer, how does the delivery guy make a shvuah to the Gizbar in the Beis Hamikdash? The concept is that you don't make a shvuah to the Beis Hamikdash. It's not an individual. It's not a one-on-one. It's not a Benal Chavera. It's Benal Makam. You don't make a shvuah. Goes according to Reb Shimon. Shimon Omer Kachim Shuchai B'Chayusam Kinechasav Hein. Since he's responsible, it's like his own, and Memela, you make a shvuah. Omer Rabbi Yochanan, Dirakoli, Mishum Shvuah Stakana. No, Erchanami. There shouldn't be a shvuah. But over here, there's a special gzeira that you shouldn't be mizalzel and hegdish. Don't take it easy. Don't say, it's only hegdish. What's the worst comes to worst? I'll get lost. No. If it gets lost, they're going to make you make a shvuah, and that's a terrible thing. I have to be careful. Says the Gemara, Al daite the Rabbi Yochanan. If we go according to Rabbi Yochanan, that it's a side takana, it's a derabanan, it's not a chiv deraisa. Al daite the Rabbi Yochanan nicha, that fits right in. Nishbaim legizbarim, vimlav nishbaim levnei ha'ir. Either you make a shvuah to the gizbar, if not, you make a shvuah to the city, right? Depends whether they were shaykel, whether they were tayrim it or not tayrim it. If they weren't tayrim, you make a shvuah to bnei ha'ir. And the city has to go and raise more money. And now we're turning to Daf Amud Beis. Mishvuim shvuas takana. So all this is great, according to Rabbi Yochanan. It's a derabanan. Don't be mizalzel. Don't treat it lightly. This is serious stuff. This is hegdish. We're going to punish you. We're going to make you make a shvuah, even though you don't really have to. Sponsored by Eli Stefansky, Brocha vehatzlacha for all the MDY team in their everyday lives, for all the hard avodas hakodesh they do. And it also always reminds me that I have a tremendous hakodesh to them as well, and everybody should. They do this on their own time, on their own expense, and they do a lot of good, hard work. Sponsored for Refuah shelayma for all Eli Yisrael, especially from our MDY family. Please consider joining the MDY Tehillim group, tehillim.8mindaf.com. 8min.com. Zog Tehillim Yimar. Shalom Aleichem, Eli Dykman. How you doing? Yosef Kessler. So you're related to Yomi Kessler? I don't think you're going to be able to mute. Just, I don't know, thumbs up maybe. Related, Nachamo, remind me. Binyamin? Yeah, okay. Related. Dad. Okay, got it. Zog the Gemara. So we have 3 generations. We have Yaakov, Binyamin, and Yosef. Gewaldig. Elo l'Rebbe Lazar, nishbar livnei Yair. Okay, I understand if you want to make a shvuah to bnei Yair. Why? Because it's a ben el mechaver thing. I need to swear to the people of the city. Did I steal from them or not? But why are you swearing to a gizbar? You don't in Ishbaim lahagdish. Says the Gemara, you're right. It depends if you gurus this or not. We'll be gurus for a second. Why not? It's not that you're swearing to the Beis Hamikdash. You're right. You're not swearing to the Beis Hamikdash. What you're doing is you're swearing to the Bnei Yair, to another individual. But why are you swearing in front of the Gizbar from the Beis Hamikdash, the representative of the Beis Hamikdash? So they shouldn't be choshed. The Beis Hamikdash shouldn't be choshed you as well. All of a sudden, what? $10,000 went missing. Something seems fishy over here. I want you to make a shvuah that you didn't steal it. Inami, the Shavelu Poishim, that the Beis Hamikdash shouldn't say that they were negligent, so make a shvuah. Avabisha kiblu. Now here's the interesting halacha. Avabisha kiblu b'nei Yair l'shali. Let's say this guy's a nice guy. Everybody knows he's a tzaddik of the city. He decided to take his donkey and schlep all this money to Beis Hamikdash for everybody, so nobody has to schlep. And then it all got lost. It got stolen. So he has to make a shvuah. Say the guy's in the city. Let's spare him. Why should he have to make a shvuah? It's not nice. He did us a favor. We know this. He's the chashav guy in the city. He didn't steal it. We know he didn't steal it. We're going to pay for it. We don't want him to swear. No good. Says the Gemara, and this halach l'maisav pisha kiblu b'nei Yair l'shalim ein ha'hegdish yoytz v'li shvuah. You cannot be moichel hashvuah. You could pay whatever you want to pay. He has to swear because this is hegdish. When it comes to hegdish, you don't mess around. We don't want people to take it lightly. Says the Gemara, if you're shiklei v'avad, what happens if a person, an individual, he set aside the machzah shekel, he's all excited, comes the cleaning lady. Did I tell you what happened yesterday? I don't even remember if I told you. I was missing my wallet for a full week. To the point where I rented a car in New York and I prepaid for it. I don't know why. I got to New York and I don't have my wallet. I don't have my license. Weitergegangen. I didn't have anything. Zero. Looking all over the house, turned over the entire house. But Kitzer, yesterday I went to the cleaners who was repairing my shatnez and my suit. But I said, get a head start on it. I'll come do the pants later. So I put on the pants and there's the wallet. Shalom Aleichem. Okay, full week. So, what happened there? He lost his shekel. He put it in his pants, sent it to the cleaners. He has no idea where his shekel is. Hifrish shiklei v'avad Rebbe Omar chayiv b'achrayusoi achim serenu legizbar. Chayiv and achrayus. So what if you set it aside for the machzah shekel? It's not the Beis Hamikdash yet. If you give it to somebody responsible for the Beis Hamikdash, Mr. Gizbar, then you send it to the that's already in the Beis Hamikdash hand. But you put it in your pocket. You have to give it another one. Shimon Lakish loves to fight with his brother Rabbi Yochanan. Every single time. Not true. You put it in your pants pocket, send it to the cleaners, you're potter because you designated it as a machzah shekel, you're done. Once you put it aside for the machzah shekel, you don't have to do it again. Says Gemara, we have a bomb question on Reb Shimon Lakish. It says, it says Mefurish in our Mishnah that if all the shekel got lost, the guy's on his donkey, he got robbed, you have to bring another shekel. You have to go around Bet Shemesh and do another collection. What do you mean? But they all designated it. They all put it on the donkey. It's gone. No, you see from here, that's not enough to just set it aside. It has to get to the Beis HaMikdash. And as long as they get to the Beis HaMikdash, you're going to have to give another one. Says the Gemara, any minute lights are turning off. Don't forget that we said that's because of Shvuas HaTakana. It's the Rabbanon thing. Tani, Harishonim Noivlim Takin Chadtin. Vashnim Noivlim Takin Atikin. There's two pushkas. So the original ones, when you find it was stolen, then you find everything. So the first ones go into the new pushka. The old ones, the shneim, the second ones go into the what's going on here? What's first? What's second? So unfortunately, there's no real clarity because this is machlokes. Repichas Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Abba Mori. Machlokes between these two. Chad Amar Elu Sheshilchu B'Reir Tchila. Rishon means the ones that were sent out first. The Charana and the other one says Amar Elu Shegilu De'Gizbarim Tchila. No, Rishon means whatever the Beis Hamikdash received first. So if they received the first, that's Rishon, that goes into the pushka of the new, and whatever they receive second, that goes into the old pushka. In pushka, that's called atikin, the older money. It's for people that forgot to bring the shekel. Halacha Beis, the Fishel halachas in Shekalim are sponsored by Fishel. Masnisin says the Mishnah, you give the machzah shekel to your friend, and this Rasha guy, he takes the machzah shekel and pretends it's his own. He goes to the gizbar and says, here, I'm a good guy, I have a machzah shekel for you. Meanwhile, it's his friend's. He's like a sociopath, he couldn't care less. Meanwhile, his friend is not going to be yaitza maybe, he doesn't care. To save a half a shekel. So, what's going on here? Im nitrama truma mal. So again, some kohen goes into the lishka room, takes a giant, all the boxes full of shekel, and he says, okay, now we have enough money to buy korbanos. So if that happened, and we said that it doesn't matter if somebody designates a shekel on the side, it becomes as if he did it. Certainly, once they were Teirim. Once they're Teirim, they say, now we have money to buy korbanos. I'm going to have to jump up. I apologize right now. When it becomes dark, I have to get up and turn on the light. So when that happens, not the light, when they're Teirim, so then it's the other guy. Then that's it. It became the Beis Hamikdash. They basically drew it out of your account. So Truma Mal. Now the Ganav guy, he takes the half a shekel that belongs to the Beis Hamikdash, because the Beis Hamikdash already drew money on that account, thinking that they already have that half a shekel that's sitting in Bet Shemesh or somebody's drawer. And now he took that half a shekel and pretended it's his own. He was Moyel. He did Me'ilah. He used something that's owned by the Beis Hamikdash already. Forget about his friend. It was already owned by the Beis Hamikdash. If you use something that's owned by the Beis Hamikdash, you have to bring a carbon, you have to pay a fifth. There's a whole process. But what if you designated, you said this golden bowl is hegdish. And then by mistake you go and you take that bowl and you use it for the machzah shekel. So it seems like the machlokes are showing if this is different or not. Says the Mishnah. And the same thing happened. In the Beis Hamikdash, they drew the money, so now they drew your account, so to speak. But there's another thing that the Mishnah sticks in here. The animal that they bought with the money was already shechted. So that's very interesting. The Mishnah over here in this case says that you have to shecht the animal. So it seems like the Rambam holds that it's only the Seifa, not the Reisha. You don't have to shecht in the Reisha. The Vilna Gaon kind of explains, I'm not exactly 100% sure what he's saying, but he's saying that when you have Bedek HaBayis, so what did I do exactly? I took something from that's Hegdish and I moved it to hakodesh. So I didn't do anything. I didn't use, but once it was shechted, there's a pgam, he says, so ayin sham. Okay. What's Meiser Sheni? So we know every time you have produce, you have to take truma, then you take Meiser, and then you take 10%. I have to turn the light, hold on. So I take my 10%, whatever is left over after I took my trumas and Meisers and everything, and on 4 years out of the 6, 1, 2, 4, 5, I give Meiser Sheni. I give 10% to who? To myself. But it's a lot of produce. It's 10,000 pounds of fruit. So I exchange it. I turn it into money, Meiser Sheni money. I take that Meiser Sheni money, bring it to Yerushalayim, and in Yerushalayim I eat steaks. I bring all my friends to the all-you-can-eat buffet, and we have a good time. So if I took that money, that Meiser Sheni money, and I used it for Machzah Shekel, what do I do now? The problem is that Machzah Shekel has to come from Chulin money. It can't come from Meiser Sheni money. So what I do is, I only realized afterwards that I made a mistake. I had a big wallet full of money. It was really Meiser Sheni money. Oh, yeah, available money for Machzah Shekel, but it's Meiser Sheni money. So I add to my Meiser Sheni money. I take another $1, whatever it is, and I say this money should be Meiser Sheni money. And Memela, once I say that, the Meiser Sheni money that I designated as Machzah Shekel money becomes good Machzah Shekel money. Because until now, it was Meiser Sheni money. And it couldn't become Machzah Shekel money. But since I took other money, I designated more money on the side. So that money became available for Machzah Shekel. The same thing with Shvius money. Says the Gemara, Hashoikel, Anantaninon, Im Korva Behema. So in our Mishnah it says two things happen. They are tiring the money and they shech the animal. V'tari debei Rebbe im nitruma truma. Doesn't mention anything about shechting the animal. Skip 3 lines. Man tono im nitruma truma Rebbe Shimoni. Dama Rebbe Shimon miyada yemekabel ma'isav. Vakoyanim's reason. Okay, so real quickly, there's a question if a guy is a vendor and he sells animals to Beis HaMikdash. He sells fruits, animals. When does he get paid? So this is machloikis. One man says he only gets paid after they shech the animal. Why? We don't want hakodesh to lose. What if the animal drops dead? So after we use the animal, we shecht it, we're 100% sure we're going to get what we need to get, then we pay the guy. But if you hold that he gets paid all the way in the beginning, so then it becomes 100% the Beis HaMikdash immediately. So then you are moil right away. By using it, you're moil. The Kohanim's reason is just telling us that since the Kohanim are so careful, they're going to make sure the animal doesn't drop dead. V'kashi. I ask a kasha, says the Gemara. What's going on here? I steal my friend's half a shekel and I give it to the Beis HaMikdash and I pretend it's mine. Why would that make a difference, says the Gemara? What if I go into my friend's backyard and I see an animal and it says there's a big sign on the animal, don't touch, this is a oila. And I go and I pick up the oila and I run to the Beis HaMikdash with it and I said, Kohen, take this, it's my oila. You think the Kohen cares? You think Hashem cares what you say? All you did is you saved the guy a trip to Yerushalayim. But at the end of the day, it's going to be Ruvain Zayla, not the Ganav Zayla. So if I steal my friend's half a shekel and you pretend it's mine, who cares? My friend designated as a half a shekel. It remains my friend's half a shekel. I could say whatever I want to say. I could say, this is Reb Shimon Bar Yochai's half a shekel. Is it going to change anything? No. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is not alive anymore. And it's not. I can't make it Eli Stefansky's half a shekel. It's not mine. It's his. Says the Gemara. Of course, it's going to be the original owner's kapara. Ooh, interesting. If I could tell that this is the half a shekel, it needs a lot of explanation. I'm not claiming that I understand it. But the Gemara is saying that if you say Mishal Beis Rabbi Gamliel Shayim Miskaven v'doicha v'doicha kupa, amazing thing happened here. We're going to learn later that all the descendants of Rabbi Gamliel, they were so into this half a shekel that it should be theirs, ignoring the fact, I shouldn't say ignoring, but they loved the mitzvah so much that even though it didn't make a difference if the Gizbar took their shekel, or not, it doesn't make a difference. My shekel could be on the bottom of the pile. And the gizber never uses it. He uses the top. But it's as if I donated to all the korbanos. They didn't care. They wanted to make sure that their half a shekel was being used. So they would toss it right in front of the gizber and make sure that the gizber gathers their shekel. Oh, says the Gemara, so if the gizber is gathering their shekel, that's what happened there. The Ganav took the shekel, the half a shekel, we call it a shekel, and gave it directly to the gizber. Now, he was able to undo the original designation. Because it's no longer an anonymous half a shekel. Now it has a name on it. It's the name of the Ganav. And that changes everything. Says the Gemara, shelayma, we have to be choishesh, but at the end of the day, maybe it didn't fall. Maybe the gizber didn't take it. And it went to the side of the pile. And if it's in the side of the pile, it's shirayim. It's left over. And if it's shirayim, v'chiyesh mila b'shirayim. Why should the Ganav have to bring a carbon? It might be an unnecessary carbon. Why? Because you only chayav a carbon if you use something from Beis Hamikdash. But over here, it's possible they never used your half a shekel that you stole. It's possible it went to the bottom of the pile. And the bottom of the pile is just shirayim. It's left over. They do other things with it. But you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to bring a carbon. Says Gemara, well, one answer is Elik Rabbi Meir, there is me'ilah, even on shirayim. So that answers that. That's why I have to bring a carbon. Oidi, another reason is, don't you remember we explained, b'mesuyam, that it's very specific. And he tossed it right in front of the gizber and he said, Gizber, please take my half a shekel. In that case, there's definitely me'ilah. Because he had kavana and he said, I'm doing it for me. Says the Gemara, wow. Okay, it's Erev Yenta. We're going weiter. We're doing another hour, so we can do a few more minutes. Manehena, ask the Gemara, mitzvahs lav lahenois nitnu. You can't benefit from a mitzvah. I can use a shofar that I'm not allowed to use. I stole a shofar, whatever it is. I'm not benefiting from a mitzvah. I'm just doing a mitzvah. So how could you say that he was moyel? He used hegdesh. He didn't use hegdesh. He performed a mitzvah with hegdesh. Let's say you use a lulav of hegdesh. You're not chayev a carbon for that because all you did was you mekayim a mitzvah. And when you mekayim a mitzvah, there's no hana in a mitzvah. We had the halacha that bezin could go into your house and forcefully remove money from your bank account. So I'm avoiding that tsar. I don't want bezin coming into my house, going through my stuff. So I lied to bezdin and I said I just gave a half a shekel. Here, my friends have a shekel. That's the hana. That's the me'ilah that I have to pay for. It's as if he had hana. Memaiser sheni dichsiv ach bechor sheyivukar lashem babehema lo yagdish ish oisoi. Kol shu kodesh. Here's the halacha that we discussed, that if you have meiser sheni money, you transferred all your fruit into money, into cash. Ein kedusha chala olav. You cannot take that meiser sheni money and transfer that into machzas shekel money. Why? Because it's hakodesh, and machzas shekel has to come from regular money, not from kedusha money. So what happens if you did it? Maybe you bring other money and you just say that whatever money that I had set aside for my ma'aser sheni, and by mistake I used it for my machzas shekel, this is instead of that. Here's new money. Voice of sela, and the sela that I set aside for my machzas shekel, sorry, this new money that I set aside for my ma'aser sheni becomes ma'aser sheni. And the money that I stole, so to speak, I took by mistake from my ma'aser sheni pile becomes shekel, becomes a ma'aser shekel. So I transfer, I add money to my ma'aser sheni. The ma'aser sheni money that I took out by mistake and made it a ma'aser shekel remains a ma'aser shekel. Rabboisai, have a wonderful day. If you want, you can say Shir Amalis now. I'm just going to take a 2-minute break, come back, and we're going to do Daf Ches, which has everything to do with Leil HaSeder.